Obviously, lately, a lot of questions have been asked about how do we know we're in a recession? And the economic definition is 2 quarters of negative GDP growth. Do I necessarily agree with that? No. As an example, look at China. China is growing like crazy. If they have a slowdown of 2 or 3%, that's a recession for them, even if they're still growing. For the US, it's a lot different. As time goes on and our economy gets bigger and bigger and bigger, we're not going to be able to grow at the same rates as before. Maybe in the future, 0 or 1% is considered good. I don't know exactly. But on the flip side, how do we know we're coming out of recession? Do we need no more GDP contraction? Not necessarily. For me, a lot of it will have to do with 2 major things. 1, job growth coming back up. If we have job growth starting to grow back up again consistently, not just the first month of job growth, but we're getting the consistent job growth back, that's huge. And 2, consumer sentiment. I want to see people believing that it's coming back up. It doesn't mean that people are optimistic fully, but if we have less and less negativity on consumer sentiment, that's going to be big. So what's consumer sentiment? I talk about this a lot. The University of Michigan, my alma mater, they have the Consumer Sentiment Index. They actually survey people in generic terms. How do they feel about the economy and how do they feel about their spending going forward? 70% of GDP is consumer spending. So when people are spending money and they're enjoying it, it's less likely that there's going to be a recession or we're coming out of it. Now, you've got to remember though, coming out of recession, things still aren't going to be good. It's not like we're going to be, oh, this is over, we're all great. That's why I don't believe that right now, that even if we are in a recession, we probably have a long ways to go. Why? Because we have to get people, we have to weed out the junk. That's what recessions are essentially like the flu for the economy. It's like you're getting sick. You have to get the junk out. You can start feeling better and going, hey, I'm getting out of this thing. Imagine when you get the flu. Dang. You're not 100% like that. You go through it and you start to feel yourself getting better. Does that mean you have the flu anymore? Maybe not necessarily, but you're still feeling sick, but you're getting better. So you don't have the flu anymore. That's the same thing about a recession. We can start to feel better and start to look at things and say, hey, our orders picking up. Our company's starting to invest back in themselves. They're starting to build more. These are the things you look at. The thing I want to see is consumer-driven growth in businesses. So recessions are going to behave a lot like bull and bear markets. When you're in the bear market, you then look back afterwards and say, oh, the bull market started here. So for example, March of 2009, the financial crisis, March 9th of 2009, the stock market bottomed out. But we didn't realize it bottomed out for 6 or 9 months later when you started to have some real positive looks in the market saying, okay, and that was on the tail of a recession, a really bad recession, things started to get better. These recessions tend to last 8 to 12 months. You know, the government's going to be very active about printing money, giving people support, et cetera, to kind of jumpstart the economy. The funny part is, I remember in 2001, when there was a stimulus plan to help stimulate the economy, I believe it was $32 billion. We spend $32 billion today like it's going to dinner at a nice restaurant. We just spend it. So there'll probably be stimulus because the government is absolutely obsessed with making sure that people have money to get themselves out of the recession, because consumer spending is 70% of it. That's going to drive it all. But just remember, when we're in the recession, we're not going to know when it's over probably till months later. We're probably not going to feel it until months later. It's going to be you know what? It's August right now. Looks like March was the end of the recession, and probably 6 or 9 months after that, they'll officially announce the end. So these are not things, but you have to look at businesses, shipping. You know, Warren Buffett talks about, he looks at the inventory. He owns a lot of railway. So he likes to look at how many railway cars are being filled with product every single day and being shipped. That's how he looks for starting and stopping a recession. When he starts to see the dip in the number of railway cars being shipped, he sits there and goes, hang on a second, there's a slowdown happening. That's a leading indicator, right? A lagging indicator is employment. Lagging indicator meaning that employment tends to be delayed in terms of exiting and entering a recession. So there's no way to actually know, but this reiterates, don't get cocky when times are good. Don't get frivolous. Still spend within your means and make sure you save your money. That's going to be the best way to ensure a solid future for you and to be less vulnerable to the perils of recession. But please, 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 always go be the most important person at your job, the most reliable person at your job. Don't just say you are, go act that way, because during a recession, they are less likely to lay you off if you're very valuable. If you like this video, 2 requests. First one, subscribe to our channel. Second one, watch this next video on the upcoming recession. Could be an opportunity of a lifetime. Thank you very much for your time.